The moment that changed everything. They threw me out, just for sneezing. They called me a walking virus. But years later, when I returned with $12 million, my father begged for help. I smiled, opened my phone, and pressed the button that would change everything. Loudspeaker subscribe if you're new. This isn't just a revenge story. It's a masterclass in quiet power. I was just 16. Sick. Not deathly, just a regular winter cold, runny nose, dry cough, a couple of sneezes. It was Christmas week, and the house smelled of cinnamon and roasted turkey. Holiday music played softly. Fairy lights blinked along the staircase. I'd just finished helping Mom decorate the tree when I sneezed. Twice. Everyone froze. Mom stopped fluffing the garland. Dad lowered the Christmas star in his hand. My sister wrinkled her nose like I had just coughed fire instead of air. "Ugh," she said. "Did you cover your mouth?" I did. I always did. But it didn't matter. Mom came over quickly and pressed her hand against my forehead. "You feel warm," she said. Then her eyes narrowed. Her voice went from concern to cold, like flipping a switch. "You're not sick, are you?" "Just a cold," I replied, embarrassed. "I'm fine." "Really?" But she was already disinfecting the couch. "Go to the basement. I don't want anyone else getting sick." I blinked. "The basement?" Dad chimed in without looking at me. "Just go. Better safe than sorry." I picked up my blanket and stepped toward the staircase, heart thudding. They watched me walk away like I was radioactive. "And don't touch anything," my sister called out. I climbed down into the freezing dark, my fingers clutching the railing. That was the last time I felt like I had a family. The basement was half finished, storage boxes, cobwebs, concrete floor, and an old dusty couch. No heating. No window. I curled under the blanket, coughing quietly, trying not to cry. I heard laughter upstairs. The clinking of forks on plates. My family enjoying dinner while I sat shivering below them like an afterthought. That night, I texted my best friend, Tasha. They kicked me out for sneezing. I'm in the basement. No food. No blanket. Tasha, OMG, what? Come to our place. I'll ask Mom. Tasha lived across the street. Her mom, Mrs. Ramirez, was the opposite of mine. Warm, loud, and always cooking something with too much garlic. When I showed up at their door with red eyes and a blanket over my shoulders, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled me into a hug. "You'll stay with us until you're better," she said. "No one gets kicked out for a sneeze." I ended up staying with them for months. White heavy check mark. That was the beginning of a new chapter. A painful one, but one that would turn me into something more powerful than my parents ever imagined. Next, how I went from sleeping on floors to making my first $100,000 at 19, and what I built in silence for 6 years. The first night was the worst. I curled up on a park bench, wrapped in the flimsy coat I had grabbed in haste before being thrown out. The temperature dropped below freezing. My nose was still runny, my body still weak from the flu, and my heart shattered beyond words. No one called. No one cared. Not even my sister, Amelia, who used to borrow my clothes and cry into my lap when her boyfriends dumped her. I was officially disposable. I found a homeless shelter the next day. They gave me a bed, soup, and a kind old nurse named Joyce who rubbed Vicks on my chest like a mother would. "Some families don't deserve the angels they're given," she whispered one night, tucking me in. That line stayed with me. For the next 3 years, I vanished from their world. I got a job cleaning at a gas station, then a diner. Then I worked nights stocking shelves at a 24-hour pharmacy. I slept 4 hours a day. I ate leftover toast. And I studied coding. Yeah, coding. On borrowed library computers. I had one goal. Make something of myself so big, so undeniable, that they would choke on their shame. I launched my first app at 19. It flopped. The second one sold for $30,000. The third, a microloan platform that went viral on Reddit for helping people with bad credit. I was 21 when a California VC firm called me. By 22, I had $12.4 million sitting in my business account and an article about me trending on Forbes.com titled, "From Homeless to Millionaire, the Girl They Left Behind." Guess who finally emailed me? Amelia. "Hey sis. OMG, just saw you on the news. We're so proud. Mom and Dad talk about you all the time." Smiling face with hard eyes. "Let's meet. Come home for Christmas?" Home. She said home. I didn't reply. Not at first. But then I had an idea. A gift. One they would never forget. So I booked the flights. First class. I arrived 3 days before Christmas and rented a luxury Tesla Model X. I even brought Joyce, the old nurse from the shelter. She was like family now. I rang the doorbell. Dad opened the door, and for a second, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. "You're back." "Only for Christmas," I smiled. "You did say this was home, right?" They acted like I never left. Mom hugged me. Amelia filmed a TikTok pretending we were besties. But I could see it in their eyes, guilt mixed with greed. At dinner, they brought up money. Subtle at first. "So, must be doing well now, huh? You probably have a team or something, right? Assistants? Investing in property? Ever think about helping family out?" Then came the moment. Dad raised his wine glass and said, "You know, your sister is still renting. Maybe you could. I mean, she is family." I nodded. "I have something better than money." Everyone leaned in. I pulled out my phone, tapped into the smart lock app connected to their house. "You remember that button you used to press to lock me out?" I smiled. "Funny how it still works, but this time I'm the admin." Click. The lights dimmed. The music cut. All four locks engaged. Panic rose in their eyes. You did what? I bought the house. 6 months ago. Through a shell company. This house. Mom gasped. This house, I confirmed. Merry Christmas. Amelia screamed that I was being dramatic. Dad shouted that he was still my father. Mom tried fake crying. But I simply stood, opened the front door, and said, "You're free to go." Just like you let me go when I was 15 and sneezed. They stumbled out. Snow fell gently, and I closed the door behind them. Joyce was waiting in the kitchen with cookies. So, she smiled. What now? I laughed for the first time in years. Now, we decorate. This is our home now. Small orange diamond. I didn't expect them to come back. But when your life is built on lies, ego, and greed, nothing stays quiet for long. The first thing I did after locking the door was change all the passwords. Every single one. I wasn't going to let them just waltz back in when they realized I had their world in the palm of my hand. I knew what I'd done was petty, but what they had done to me, all those years of neglect, dismissing me for something as simple as a sneeze? That was betrayal at its finest. The media was quick to pick up on the story. Within hours, headlines flooded social media. Daughter of wealthy family becomes millionaire, reclaims her inheritance after getting kicked out for a sneeze. My name, Elena Rivas, was trending. I watched it all unfold with a cup of hot cocoa in hand, and I felt nothing. It wasn't the fame I wanted, but it was the statement I needed. But then came the backlash. You can't mess with rich people and not expect a fight. It started with my mother calling. Elena, this is ridiculous. You can't just steal everything from us. Steal? I asked, tapping my nails on the glass table. Funny. I'm not the one who kicked my own daughter out for sneezing. You're being unreasonable. It's Christmas, she shrieked. I remember the last Christmas you gave me, I replied. Except it wasn't gifts. It was a door slammed in my face. Her desperate calls didn't stop. Amelia, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of emotion, texting me about forgiving family and Christmas spirit. I didn't even bother responding. These people had their chance. And they blew it. But then came an unexpected twist. A visit from someone I didn't think I would ever see again. 3 days after I locked them out, there was a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, especially not after the chaos I had stirred. But when I opened it, standing in front of me, wearing an old, familiar jacket was none other than Ramon, my first love. I froze. Ramon? My voice cracked as if my throat hadn't recognized his name in years. He smiled, his dark eyes still familiar, but there was something different about him. It wasn't the boy who once whispered promises of forever. This man was different, more mature, more guarded. It's been a while, hasn't it? He said softly. I heard you were back in town. And I came to see you. I stared at him for a long moment, feeling a strange mixture of anger and longing. I had built a life, one that didn't need his coming back to complicate things. "Why now?" I asked, finally breaking the silence. "Why after everything that's happened?" "Because," he said, eyes locking with mine, "I saw the story. I saw what your family did. And I don't want to be another person who hurt you." I exhaled slowly. I wasn't sure if I was prepared to hear what came next. "You were right about me. I was selfish. But what they did to you, it's unforgivable. And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to try again. To make things right." I swallowed hard. This wasn't how I had planned this moment. I wasn't the naive girl I used to be, waiting for some fairy tale ending. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story than just the betrayal of the past. "You left me, Ramon. You left me when I needed you the most." "I know," he whispered, stepping closer. "I've been living with that for years. Every day, I regret it." We stood there in silence for a long time, the weight of the years between us settling in the cold air. But the truth was, I wasn't sure I could forgive him. I had to wonder if I ever would. "What now?" I asked, the harshness of my own voice surprising me. "Now," he said, his voice steady, "you decide. But I'm not leaving. Not this time." Ramon stayed, but he didn't pressure me. He gave me the space I needed, but I could feel his presence lingering in every corner of the house. His apologies were genuine, and I couldn't help but wonder if this was just another trick my heart played on me. But life, like love, had a way of challenging us when we least expected it. For the next few weeks, I focused on building my empire, using my wealth to help people who had been kicked out, forgotten, or dismissed, just like I had been. The idea was clear: help others rise above the challenges they didn't deserve. But the pressure from my parents didn't let up. They hired a PR firm, trying to clean up their reputation, making sure everyone knew they didn't deserve this outcome. But I wasn't interested in playing their game. I was playing my own. The backlash grew, and the media loved it: the drama, the revenge, the twisted love story unfolding. But as the weeks went by, one thing became apparent: my family was losing the fight for control, and I was gaining everything I had worked for. But in the middle of all this chaos, Ramon came through for me in ways I never expected. He wasn't just showing up to apologize. He was there when it counted. He had invested in my company, helped me expand my platform, and more importantly, he was loyal. The man who had once abandoned me had finally found a way to prove his worth. And for the first time in a long time, I was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, love wasn't just about betrayal. It was about redemption. Small orange diamond. It was Christmas Eve. Snow dusted the streets like powdered sugar, and inside my new Manhattan loft, the one I bought without a cent from my parents, the lights glowed soft and golden. Ramon was in the kitchen, making peppermint cocoa like he used to. I sat on the couch, staring at the invitation I had never thought I'd receive. A family dinner. At my parents' mansion. The very same people who kicked me out for sneezing were now begging me to come back. The very same father who once called me a walking virus now wanted me to share a meal because, and I quote, "family is what matters at Christmas." Except it wasn't family when I slept in my car at 17. It wasn't family when Amelia wore my clothes, my jewelry, my life, and no one said a word. It wasn't family when I had to fight, alone, for every piece of peace I own now. And yet, here I was, holding the invite like it mattered. You don't have to go, Ramon said gently, placing a cup beside me. You owe them nothing. I know, I replied. But I'm not going for them. I was going for me. Their faces were a picture when I walked in. Amelia nearly dropped her wine glass. My mother's smile froze halfway across her lips. My father blinked like he was seeing a ghost. And I wore the same dress they once said wasn't ladylike. Black, fierce, backless, just like my story. Elena, my mother gasped. You actually came. Merry Christmas, I said, with a tight smile. Hope the seating arrangement is still virus-free. The silence was brutal and satisfying. Dinner was stiff. Small talk layered over old wounds. Amelia bragged about her upcoming wedding. My father praised her fiancé's prestigious family. My mother asked if I was still doing that little tech thing. Yes, I replied, stirring my soup. That little tech thing raised $22 million in funding last quarter. Choke. Blink. Gasp. Repeat. The final move. As dessert arrived, I pulled out a simple red envelope and slid it across the table toward my father. What's this? He asked. A gift, I said. You wanted me here. You'll want this too. He opened it. Read the paper. His jaw dropped. My mom leaned over his shoulder and gasped. Amelia paled. You bought the company? My father stuttered. The one that laid you off? Yes, I nodded. I own a controlling stake now. Effective yesterday. The silence shattered into whispers. You planned this? No, I smiled. I built this. They wanted me gone. They erased me. They humiliated me. But I came back louder, stronger, richer. This isn't revenge, I said calmly. It's closure. I'm not here to hurt anyone. Just to prove I didn't need to hurt anyone to win. And just like that, I stood up. Ramon followed. You're leaving? My mom asked, desperate. Yes, I replied. And don't worry, the inheritance? Keep it. I made my own. As I walked out, snow began to fall again. But it didn't feel cold. It felt like the beginning of something new. Freedom. Power. Peace. And when Ramon took my hand, I knew this wasn't the end of a story. It was the start of the legacy they never saw coming. Sparkles, because sometimes the best revenge is living the life they told you you'd never have.